If I were podcasting, it would be insane. Knowledge flowing like the sweetest rain. Professor Bear on the mic, spreading wisdom wide. A bear's thoughts, that's my pride, I can't hide.
With the voices in your ear, changing the game.
If I rule podcasting, every thought we'd ignite. In a world of chatter, we'll just walk in the fight. With Professor Bear, we're climbing to new heights. A Bear's Thoughts podcast, shining bright in the night. Topics from the heart, never sounding the same. Got laughs and debates, never dull or bland. From culture to tech, take you by the hand. Join the ride with us, feel the vibe expand. With every episode, we shine that
beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul.
So tune in, don't miss what we got to share. If I rule podcasting, I spread the love everywhere.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me this evening. I am Professor Bear, and this is A Bear's Thoughts. So my thought today is 2026 has already been an amazing year. I've been so overly excited about doing this, and it has been so much better than what I anticipated it was. Getting great guests from people that I know I've been on their podcast, to members of my WSN family been on, and then people who I was just meeting for the first time. It's been such a great experience, and I'm very blessed that so many people have been willing to do this. This gentleman here, he took a chance on me when I was just first starting to try to get WSN out as a brand, and he was so gracious enough to let me come on my show and talk about WSN. So when I came up with this idea, I wanted to give people thank yous for being so kind and generous. And when I did it, first person I thought of was this gentleman here. Guys, girls, this is Buster Johnson. Buster, how are you doing today, sir?
Man, I am doing great, Professor Bear. Man, I'm going to say this right off the bat. You guys have done an amazing job with the WSN network. Your podcast, man, I love the setup, man. I just don't see how you keep up with it, man. I feel like you do 5 or 6 of these a day sometimes, dude.
It feels like 5 or 6 some days.
I can't tell how you keep up with who's who. I'd be lost, man.
I tell you what, if people do not use this to help them keep stuff straight, I love Google Calendar. That is my saving grace. I tell you, I keep a timer on, so if I forget I got one, it'll buzz me an hour before so I can do everything I need to, and I still come up late on some episodes, but that's another story entirely. But so I have to ask you the question I ask all my guests. How did you become a wrestling fan?
Man, I don't even know, to be honest. long as I can remember, wrestling's been in my life. And that's just the honest truth. From 4 or 5 years old, I remember wrestling in cartoons before anything else. I'm from a town called Helena, Arkansas, and obviously our local wrestling, our hometown wrestling was Memphis wrestling, old school CWA, 11 to 12:30 every Saturday morning. And man, I'd sit in my parents' living room. I had this big giant panda bear. Dude, I'd beat the crap out of that bear for an hour and a half every single Saturday morning, man. And it's just been a part of my life ever since, man.
I definitely can understand and relate to that. So before we get too deep in the conversation, because my mind will forget, guys, girls, you know what that QR code means. That is to go to Buster's YouTube page and check out some of his great material. I promise y'all, if y'all want a good, this is how I classify Buster. If you want a good hometown conversation with someone that you've known for years, he is the man for that. I always enjoy his how he does his podcasting. It's so amazing. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like that's my job. I don't really consider myself an interviewer. I've got some questions that I ask, but I can. You nailed it right on the head right there. You nailed it. I tell all my guests, once we get going, it's basically a conversation between me and you about wrestling, and I feel like that's my job to make. I mean, you look, you've been doing this a while now. Some guests are nervous. Some guests aren't, but the ones who are nervous, man, it's so satisfying to get them on, and within 4 or 5 minutes, you've got them loosened up to where they're just opening up and they're telling you things that they probably never thought they would tell you on air. And I just feel like I feel like that's just my niche as far as it's not really an interview when I do a podcast. It's a conversation at the end of the day between people who love wrestling.
It's funny because you're so right. You have people on for the first time and they're very nervous. And then I look, just think of it as a conversation. We're two old friends. We're talking about something we love. And generally that relaxes them. And like you, I have questions, but I make it so easy for them. It's like, hey, don't be nervous. Just talk from your heart. That's all. And it makes the conversation flows so much better and have such a great conversation. And like you said, end up talking about things they didn't necessarily think they would bring up in the podcast.
I'll be honest with you. I really have very few. I mean, I like to start off finding out where someone was from, how they were raised, how you got into the business. But once it goes, I don't really have nothing after that. My questions come from what my guests say. I listen to what my guests say when they're talking, and it never fails. It inspires question after question from me. I don't really do a lot of prep work. I'm a wrestling fan, so most people I bring on I know about to a certain extent at least. Right. You know, and I feel like it's my job, it's your job. If you want a good interview and it not to be awkward, it's our job to pull these people out of their shell. I mean, you can have real outgoing people on camera and in the ring, but you get them on a podcast and all of a sudden they're nervous. They wrestle in front of thousands of people, do promos in front of thousands of people, but you get them on a podcast, they're nervous. And I tell them the same thing. I'm nervous. I'm nervous right now, Professor Bear, and I tell them that, but I feel like it's our job to relax them to a point, make them feel comfortable, where they forget they're even on a podcast is really my goal.
Exactly, and I don't remember when, but I hit a point where now I'm not nervous. it's just second nature to me. Now, I think the biggest time I ever really was really shaky, nervous is when I talked to Ron Fuller, because when I first talked to him, I called him Ron White.
Oh God!
And I was like, oh God. I was like, oh, I screwed this interview up so bad off the bat. And he laughed and he said, no, it's okay. He's a good person. If you're going to compare me to somebody that was a good person, and he helped me get back on track.
Well, I know you're a big guy, but Ron Fuller's like 6'7", 8'9". I don't know. He's a big guy. Robert Fuller's the same way. And Ron Wright's a legend from around our area, man.
Exactly. So he was not offended, and I was so glad. So now you have a wrestling background.
Yes, sir.
Will you tell the fans how you got into wrestling?
In 1991, and here's the thing: back then there wasn't wrestling schools. Like there wasn't companies ever 5 miles down the road, and there wasn't wrestling schools double the companies. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So we'd been waiting for me to get 18. In 1991, I'm 17. My brother starts looking for a wrestling school, trying to get a hold of somebody. It took us 6 months. Finally, we got a number for Jerry Jarrett. He called Jerry Jarrett, and they would train in Nashville at the fairgrounds every Sunday, a 3-hour session every Sunday. And he got on the phone with Jerry Jarrett, and Jerry Jarrett tried to discourage us from coming in every single way. And this will come out in the end, but every single way, man, he told my brother, he said, look, he said, it's not what you think. It's not what you see on TV. He said, you know, and he told him, he said, only about 3 a year at the time actually make it in the business. You know, everybody else washes out. Right. Only about 3 a year actually make it. And when my brother got off the phone with him, I asked him, I said, well, what did he say? And he said, man, he said, it was like he was trying to get us not to come. You know, but we said, forget that. He gave us the date, the time, and I lived in Helena, Arkansas at the time. Nashville was 8 hours away because it was still 55 miles an hour. So we left the house the first morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning, had just enough time to stop and eat a little lunch and be at the fairgrounds by 2. We were actually about 5 minutes late, and when we got out of the vehicle, outside the fairgrounds, you know, it's a big old metal building. Right. So you can hear guys in there and you can hear the ring. If you're a wrestling fan, you know what that sound is. We get out of the car and my brother's like, what is that noise? And I said, man, it sounds like guys in a ring. So you know, immediately got super nervous. Then I did, super nervous. So we walked through the door of the fairgrounds and the guys are in the ring going over some lockups and doing some bumps. And Tony Falk's in there, and he comes over to us, you know, can I help y'all, whatever. And he shakes our hand, and he gives us that wrestler shake. Now, you know, we don't know nothing about the wrestler shake, so he gives us that little limp-wristed type of shake, but he's testing us to see if we did know anything about the business.
Right.
We told him what we was there for. We lied on the release forms. We said I was 18. Of course, I was 6'1.5" and 350 pounds, so he didn't really question that I was 18. Paid the money, went in the bathroom in the fairgrounds to change. Man, I never throw up, but man, I was so nervous I was dry heaving in the bathroom because here's the deal. That's all I ever wanted to do or be, as long as I could remember, was a wrestler. So now you're there in that bathroom at the Nashville Fairgrounds, a historic building for pro wrestling.
Yes.
And it's put up or shut up time. Now it's, oh, can you really do this? You know, man, got dressed, nervous as could be. And my brother said, man, who was that? He didn't realize it was Tony Falk. I said, man, that's Tony Falk. And he said, man, what was the deal with that handshake? And I said, I don't really know about that. I don't know what the deal is with that handshake. And, I'm going to give you a little Fred Sanford. We both kind of thought maybe, I don't want to say it out loud, but we both kind of thought maybe he was a little fruity. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he was just testing us. Man, got in the ring that first day. Had a blast. They worked my tail off, lockups, and just turning bumps right off the bat, just falls right off the bat. Got in the car to go home. It's an 8-hour drive. And the one thing I was always immediately pretty good at not banging my head. But the one thing I was doing was letting my heels slap the mat. Every time I would try to take a bump, my heels would slap against the mat. Now, it don't hurt when you're in there doing it. But, man, by the time I got home, when I pulled my shoes off, I thought my heels were coming off in my shoes. They were stone bruised so bad,
Ooh.
Dude, I mean, I was as sore as can be, but loved it and never looked back. And here's the thing about Jerry Jarrett. Think about how many thousands of calls Jerry Jarrett's had just like the one we gave him. And how many guys that he's told them where to come and stuff, and they come for a class, because I seen it when I was there. We had football players, rugby players, basketball players. We had all kind of different people come through there. And some of the people you think was big and bad, that was tough, would make it, they'd wash out immediately. We had a big rugby player named Colin Scotts, played pro rugby, and big dude, man. When I say big, 6'9", 300 pounds of solid, just, he wasn't built like, he wasn't a muscle head, but he was just a big, solid guy.
Right.
And they kind of fast-tracked him because he had a name in rugby. His first match in the Coliseum, broke his collarbone, never wrestled again.
Ooh.
But, I mean, that's kind of how it started there, Professor Bear, at the Nashville Fairgrounds.
So, when you started that and you were excited and everything, did you have an expectation that you were going to be just the biggest star in the world?
Not really. I did have an expectation of making money at this. And look, I mean, I think everybody knows now, when you first start wrestling, you do not make any money. It actually costs you to wrestle. You have to work a shoot job just to be able to go wrestle. If you stick with it and you're decent, the money will eventually come later. But no, we all have those dreams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all have those dreams. But to be honest with you, my biggest dream was to go against Jerry Lawler in the Mid-South Coliseum and beat Jerry Lawler in the Mid-South Coliseum. That's where my original assessment of wrestling, my original dream, never got to do that. But, no, I don't know that I had any expectations. I'll tell you what I did have, because I've seen so many people come through, and just like Jerry Jarrett told my brother, it's not what you think, it's not what you see on TV. When I was training, I've seen so many guys come through, and they get in the ring, they take a few bumps, work out about 30 minutes, go to get them a drink of water or go to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden you don't see them, but you hear that front door of the Nashville Fairgrounds close, bang together, and they never come back, man. But I wasn't one of those guys. I always respected wrestling. From even before I got into it, I had a high respect for the guys who do this and the sport itself.
I totally agree with you. I think you can tell when fans have a real respect for the sport, because no matter whether you cheer or boo somebody, if you see them out, you always have that respect of, okay, and especially if they're around, like you run into them in the grocery store and stuff, you have the respect, like, man, I really want to say something, but you're doing this, I'm going to say hi and leave you alone.
Right. I agree with that 100%. Look, I ain't never been one to turn down all. The way I always looked at it, man, it's a privilege for people to come up and want your autograph. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, I mean, and I still do, man. I don't care who you are. If somebody comes up and wants your autograph, I feel like it's your duty to give it to them. I don't care. I don't care if you're the dirtiest heel in the game. If they had the guts to come up, now it's one thing at a convention where that's what everybody's there for. But like you said, you pass somebody on the street, you pass Ric Flair on the street, and you got the guts to come up one-on-one and say, hey, Mr. Flair, you know, you're my favorite. If they ask for an autograph, man, I say do it. I don't care whether you're bad guy or good guy, because those are your fans, and that fan is going to remember that for the rest of their life. You might forget it, but the fan is going to remember that for the rest of their life, because it's going to be a highlight of their life.
Exactly. And that could be the biggest thing in their life. I was blessed. I think this was back in February of last year. I was at a show, and we had a booth, and we had some shirts and stuff out, and a gentleman came up. He never heard of us, and he's like, man, can I get your autograph? And I just kind of looked at my buddy who was a wrestler, and I'm looking at him like, you need to sign this. He's like, nah, he's talking to you. And it was so unreal. And I'm like, wow, somebody actually wants my autograph. I'm like, I felt like, man, this is getting serious now, that I'm beginning to have fans and they want autographs. The first time I took a picture was actually with a wrestler that wanted my picture.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it blew me away. I'm like, and I even said, you know, we're backwards, right? You know, I should be asking you for the picture, not you asking me. He just laughed. He said, I love your show. I love everything you're doing for indie wrestling, man. It'd be an honor. And I'm like, wow, a wrestler is honored to get an autograph from me. What kind of backwards ass world did I go into? But again, that showed the level of respect that he had for what I was doing.
Right.
And it's such an honor that the professionals that you get to talk to and carry a conversation with, that respect you, that wants to have you there or announce you. I was at a wrestling show, and the owner, he made sure he was talking. He's like, hey, Professor Bear in the building, give him a hand. I'm sitting there like, whoa, I didn't want people, but you know, then I realized that I play more of a part in wrestling than I really realized. But I respect it. Yeah,
and here's the thing, man. I was brought in old school, the end of kayfabe. When I say the end, I mean the very end. We were still taught to protect the business. Man, we couldn't even have done this podcast in 1991 or 2. And I mean, that sounds crazy to say 1991 or 2. I mean, we went through the 80s with the WWF and all this different stuff, but it was still a business that was really guarded at the time. Right. But now I can't imagine if we'd have had social media then, and even take it back, if the guys from the early 80s, mid 80s had social media, they might not even have been a wrestling business, man, because all of them would have been in jail or divorced, one of the two. But nowadays, it's part of the culture. It's part of the business. And I've just tried to embrace it, to be honest with you. Wrestling's so much different now itself. Wrestlers are different now. Their mentality is different now than what it was when I was brought in, because, like I said, we were taught to protect the business. I was still expected to, if someone said wrestling was fake in 1992, I'm still expected to tell them, no, it's real. You know what I mean? Right. And when you're a young guy, that really puts you in a awkward situation sometimes when, I mean, all you got to do is watch wrestling to know what it is. You know, and I feel like that's one reason I always had a respect for wrestling, because I didn't just see it as playtime. These wrestlers, especially the ones that make it to the tip top of the business, man, these guys are some of the best actors, some of the best celebrities, some of the best athletes. That's one thing people forget. Shawn Michaels, one of the best athletes in the history of athletes, period. I can promise you that. Back when at his prime, kept him straight and kept him healthy. You could have put him in a triathlon or anything, any kind of athletic contest with any other athlete. I'm not saying he would have won, but he'd have been able to hang.
Yeah. The thing that I think a lot of people really don't, like you said, y'all are athletes, and not every athlete can do what wrestlers can do. It's a whole different type of cardio. It's different. That's why a lot of football players can't make it as wrestlers, because they don't have the cardio for it.
Yeah, cardio is a big thing in the all athletes come when they get. Look, I've seen basketball players, college and semi-pro basketball players try to come in the wrestling business. Honestly, they're probably the closest ones on cardio because they're always running.
Right.
But you add bumping on top of that and up and down, and you 300 pounds, and you got to pick that 300 pounds up 5 or 6 times in a minute and a half because you're bumping and feeding. It's a whole different thing then, and it's more about learning how to pace yourself, and not most wrestlers blow up because they get nervous. You see wrestlers, I mean, I feel like that's probably true with most athletes. You
Right.
get in there and you get nervous, and that's when you blow up. And wrestlers are the same way, man. If you stay calm, stay level, and work your pace, you usually don't have no problem. But it takes time to learn that too, because when you first start, you just want to go 90-0, boom, 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 and it takes veterans coming to you and telling you, hey man, you might want to slow this down some. You're doing great, but you're moving 90-0. You're not giving the fans time to digest 2 moves ago what you did, what happened to you 2 moves ago. And if you lose the fans, you lose the story.
Yes, definitely. So how did you translate from wrestling to being a podcaster?
I got suckered into it, Professor Bear. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I started a YouTube channel about 5-6 years ago now. And when I got back in the business, and what I would do, I would go around and film local shows around my area, put it on my YouTube channel. So that kind of parlayed into then eventually going to Facebook. And I had written made a couple of posts on Facebook that got a lot of steam and a lot of heat from some people. Other people loved it. So I got a promoter, buddy. He's the promoter of the UWA and American Hostile Championship Wrestling, Mark Manley, and a buddy of mine, Mike Fortenberry. And so they hit me up one day and said, hey, you want to be on a podcast? And in my head, I'm thinking they want me as a guest on their podcast. So I said, sure. I didn't even question. I said, sure. When, what time? So they told me, and sure enough, comes that day, we go live, and they had called the podcast Buster Uncovered because I'd been under a hood as the Hellraiser forever.
Right.
And so the whole gimmick was coming out from under the hood, showing my face all the time. So they called it Buster Uncovered. Little did I know that I wasn't just going to be a guest. It was basically my podcast. we do the first episode, and I'm thinking, well, okay, this is done now. And my partner, Mark Manley, goes, all right, ladies and gentlemen, join us next week for the second episode of Buster Uncovered. And I knew right then I'd been got, man. We did 11 episodes together. And Mark's a big sports guy, man. He runs the Boot Hill Sports Network in Missouri. And they do all kind of high school and college sports, film it, commentate it around the Missouri area. If anybody loves sports, Go check out the Boot Hill Sports Network on YouTube, full of sports. He does that. So he kind of got busy with that. And so they pulled out of the podcast, and I thought we was 11 in, and I thought, well, I'm going to keep it going. I changed the name to Buster Unmasked instead of Buster Uncovered, and I'm about 218 or 19 episodes in.
Oh, man.
But they got me, Professor Bear. I never had an intention, even a thought about doing a podcast.
It's so funny that I've been asking all my guests how they decided to do podcasts and stuff. And I have to admit, yours is the most unique that I've heard so far.
Man, I had hadn't even never crossed my mind. And to be honest with you, if it had been, there might have been 2 or 3 other people that could have asked me to do that podcast, even just be a guest. And I would have said yes because I felt obligated. But
right.
at the time, I didn't really want to do it then. I did it because of who it was, who asked me. But now it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, man. I'll be honest with you. It gave me a new outlet for my passion for wrestling, because going around filming's fine, but it gets old after a while. And I did it for like 4 years straight. I mean, and I live in West Tennessee, and every single week there's probably 5 promotions in a 100-mile radius that run every single Friday or Saturday night around here. And that's just in West Tennessee. So there was never a shortage of wrestling to go film. And I wouldn't go back and change anything now. I'm glad they asked me to be on the podcast.
So what do you think makes your podcast different from anybody else's?
Look, I don't want nobody to take this the wrong way, but it's 100% true. I feel like it's me. I feel like it goes back to what we were talking about, being able to, I watch podcasts all the time, and I know you probably do too. And how many do you see that a guest brings somebody on and it's just awkward? It's like the host barely knows anything about these people. They're just bringing them on for content. You know what I mean? And yeah. I don't do that. I don't bring people on for content. I'm a substance guy. I don't just do content. That don't get my goat, so to say. If I bring you on my podcast, I'm interested in you. There is something you did, said, or I seen that made me want to talk to you in person. And I feel like it's me. I feel like the ability to try to bring these guys and girls out of their shells, the one who are a little introverted, it's an art form. Yeah. It truly. Look, I would have 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known nothing about it. Wrestling's an art form, and podcasting is an art form too.
Exactly. And one thing I always say about podcasting, that there's so many different ways you could go about it. Like I think I'm unique because generally I get the guests. I don't do much research on them. And the reason why is because I feel like if I know too much about a guest, then when we get to talking, I almost feel fake. Like, right. And I never want my fans to feel like I'm BSing them. I love to find out when they find out. I love to talk, and like you, hell, I can carry a conversation. I'm a very charismatic person. So it's nothing for me to get someone we don't know much about each other, and I find out, like you, I can pull it out of them like, oh, okay. And then there's that element where if you say, okay, we're going A, B, C, but that person says something that you should go to E, then go E. I'm just fluent. I play with my guests what they want to talk about, how they talk. Oh, okay, I see this. So let me stop talking about this. Let's translate over to this. It makes it so more down to earth.
Right. I hop around on my podcast. Like, we're liable to be talking about where you're from and where you was born at 1 second, and then we're liable to talk about something else. But I do that on purpose because then I go back throughout the podcast before it ends and button up all of those ends. So if you watch it from start to finish, you get a cohesive picture right there by the time it ends. It may feel like it's jumping around from time to time, but if you watch the whole podcast, I try to do my best to button up every one of those loose ends before we're done. And here's something else. I'm with you. I don't like to know too much. Most of my guests I know a lot about as a observer or a fan.
Right,
because
right.
I bring most of my guests on from around my area, and I'm blessed to be around an area that's we got hundreds between Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, Lower Kentucky. There are hundreds of talented wrestlers around my area, and my forte is the young guys. Look, I love talking to the legends, but here's my opinion. Just like me, my time's passed. If we want wrestling to have a future, it's these young guys that we gotta help push, help expose to the people. The old guys have done their thing, and I learn about my guest just like you do on the podcast. I don't really like I'm not a big researcher, and I figure, what's the point of this podcast? We're here to learn about you. If you're my guest, the whole point's to learn about you. So I might as well learn some things just like you said when the fans do.
Exactly. And I'm big on that as well, is to help the guys and girls get to the next level. Maybe they've never did a podcast. Maybe I'm blessed to have them on and I'm the first person. Well, afterwards we talk. I tell them honestly, like, hey, you did pretty good, but you may want to think about this when you do it. Have your thoughts together. If you want to be in character, that's fine, but let your host know that so he can make sure he plays into that so you can roll in it easier. It's just little things like that. And I feel like you, man, I'm helping. I'm just a wrestling fan. Nobody is interested in me being a wrestling fan, but they're interested in learning new guys, what their thought process is, what got them into the business in the first place. And again, at times they love stories. Hey, I've been blessed to meet a lot of different wrestlers. I have legend stories, but it's not always about me. So I try not to overextend my reach and let my guests talk and give more of themselves.
That right there is golden rule right there, dude. I'm glad you said that because I feel the same way. Look, it's one thing to add my little input. If we got a conversation going and he says something or she says something and I've kind of been through the same thing, I might tell a little story, but I see so many podcast hosts that get guests on, and at the end of the day, it was almost like the guest was there for no reason, and the podcast host is really looking for reasons to talk about themselves. You know what I mean? And I agree with you 100% on that, man. And this is all stuff you learn. I can tell you this: to do a podcast, you really need to be a personable person. You need to be able to, like you said, hold a conversation. And here's the thing. We might jump around and stuff, but we're still the pilot of this plane. It's our job to steer these guys and girls kind of where we want them to go at times. Because like you said, especially the young ones, I mean, the young ones, they don't have no clue anyway. They're just happy to be on, that somebody wanted to know about them. So it's our job to kind of steer them along through the podcast, make them feel as comfortable as possible, and make them feel good about themselves. Here's the thing. I'm not one of these guys. I'm not going to bring a guest on to berate them.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. That ain't my job. If I bring you on this podcast, it's my job. I'm trying to elevate you. You know what I mean? That's my job. I'm not going to bring you on, and I'm not going to say I won't speak my mind if the conversation goes there, but I'm still not going to. I'm not going to bring up none of your negatives. I'm only going to accentuate your positives.
Exactly. I think, and knock on wood, I've never had a podcast where I did an interview that I had to kick somebody off or stop the podcast early because they were disrespectful or things like that. Because I'm a true believer in you. I would treat you the way I want to be treated. Right. I want to be treated with respect. I want to be treated like what I want to talk about. Again, just be respectful. I'm respectful of my guests and I'm respectful of wrestling. So it's like, if you can be respectful, I'm going to try my best to make it a fun experience where we can just enjoy ourselves.
And here's the thing. I mean, we all have guests that it's the first time you've ever talked to somebody ever. And we come on and there's this little bit of awkwardness. Guests might not be a butt or nothing, but just there's this little bit of apprehension and awkwardness. And here's the thing. I'm like you. I'm never going to kick nobody off my podcast because I feel like if that happens, if I have to do that, it ain't the guest that failed. It was me that failed. I failed. It's my job to pull what I want out of these guests and by any means necessary. Look, and there's no doubt some of these wrestlers need their ego stroked a little harder than others to get what you want out of them. But that's the game. That is the object of the podcast. I want people to learn about you. I want them to learn the best parts of you. I don't want them to learn nothing negative about you, hopefully. And if I can't do that, then I look at it like I failed, not the guest. I feel like that lands on me at the end because that's my job as the pilot of this plane.
Definitely. It's so much of an art form that I wasn't prepared for. When I first started it, I just really didn't realize on how much of different things come into play. And over the years, I've been blessed to realize what my strong suits are, what my negatives are. So I try to, I do this. Okay, let me try to stop doing that. Or if I can't, let me incorporate it in a way where it's funny. Let me make fun of myself. I don't mind that. And just there are so many different things and avenues that I've learned doing this. And it's like, oh, wow. Like I make sure I try to put my best foot forward. When I do intros, I try to make it the best looking intros. Like my background. My co-CEO partner did my first one, which was amazing. And I'm like, okay, not that I didn't like it, but it had been there for a while. So it's like, okay, I need to change it up. So what can I do to change it up to make it feel a little more me and go with my theme? So it's like, okay, I do this. And you get creative. You think about things and like, oh man, I've seen him do it. Hey, I won't do the exact same thing, but that gives me an idea of something different that I can do for mine.
Right. And here's the thing. I mean, it's all about the guest, but it's your podcast. It's my podcast. It's about our brand too at the same time. And it's just like being a wrestler. You find something that works and you kind of stick with it until you it starts wearing thin, and then it's time to reinvent yourself. I'm the same way. I look back at some of my first podcasts and the actual podcast parts, not that bad. I wasn't nowhere near as, I was super green as far as I didn't have a style. You also got to find your style of interview, but you also got to update your background. You got to find stuff that makes your podcast unique in your brand. So when someone sees something, they think, well, that's Buster Unmasked right there. They don't even really have to look at it. They can just tell by how it's put together, the background, original intros. I've done the same thing over the last year or so. I really went in on getting original music made where I didn't have no copyright claims, original theme song for the podcast. Had a guy make me an original intro, 2 of them actually. And I've also started a thing called the Dirty Dozens where I take wrestlers and what we do is it's a roast battle. It's 3 rounds. I take these pro wrestlers who are good trash talkers and I face them off against each other in 3 rounds of trash talk. First round is straight trash talk. Second round's like battle rap. Third round is like promo wars. And then we let the fans vote and see who wins, and I pay them. The winners get money. First round winners make $50. Second round winners $75. If you make it to the finals and you win, it's $100 payoff. It's just you've got to find different ways to diversify too with this stuff because you stick to do. And here's the thing: technology moves so fast now, and people's attention span. So you think, well, I just had a new intro made 1.5 years ago, and 1.5 years ain't that long, but it is really. In the social media world, maybe it's time to update. You might not change your intro music, but you might go have your guy make you a new video for it. Or right. You might get an alternate version and a whole new video. But you have to build your brand. It's as simple as that. It is a brand, and you have to build it with people.
And it's funny that you said it like that because I always, if I get a chance to talk to a younger wrestler, I always tell them, look, your business is you. You have to have the mind state of you are a business and you have to make people want to be in your business. So you have to look, I don't like social media that much, but I'm on it. I try to have different outlets so different people can see it, so I can reach different markets, different things. Because if I stay in the same market, I'm going to get stale and people are going to get tired of me. So I have to, like you said, diversify. I have to get out there. I have to do it. And I do it in a way that it feels not like work. It doesn't feel like it's a have to. I want to. And it makes things so much easier for me when I feel like it's something I want to do versus, oh God, I have to do it.
I'm the same way, man. It gives me an outlet for my passion for wrestling, and it gives me an outlet for my creativity. And look, it took me a while, but I finally got me a music guy who, and I think have you had Robert Carter on yet? Divine Productions?
No, I haven't, but I think we got something scheduled.
Man, that's the guy who really around our area, he's becoming the lead dog at making custom intro music for wrestlers. But he also does, if you got a business and you need a jingle, if you just want a song made about you and even a video at times, man, he's the guy to go to. He's easy to work with. Man, it's a fast turnover. And he makes all my music, and I got another guy by the name of Jared Whitmire. Man, he went to college for graphic design, and he makes all my intro videos, and even my thumbnails for my podcast now, he makes for me. And it dresses up your, here's something. Let me ask you this. Everybody's using AI thumbnails and when I say everybody, I don't just mean in the wrestling business. I mean every single person. Like, I watch a lot of interrogations, police interrogations. Now they're using AI thumbnails. Other podcasts are using AI thumbnails. And I'm sorry, but I have my guy make each one of my thumbnails specifically for my guest. It's just, for me, I feel like it makes you more unique. Because I don't know if you've seen some AI stuff is awesome, but a lot of it, if you really go to looking at people's faces and stuff, you realize if you're a mile away, it looks just like the person. If you're a foot away, you're like, that ain't even that dude, man. Yeah. That ain't even that's supposed to be. But you just have to. You have to. It gives me a creative outlet. I'm a creative person, but I love wrestling, man. I love whether it's booking. It don't matter what it is in the wrestling business. If it's about wrestling, I'm creative with it. And I never had guys who could take my ideas and get them out on the screen for me. And once I found guys who could make music, because me and Robert was just talking. I'm starting we had a company around here in the late 90s called KAW, Kick Ass Wrestling. And we're bringing it back. And so the theme music at the time was AC/DC's Shoot the Thrill, but obviously we know we can't use that because everything AC/DC pretty much gets blocked or at least copyrighted. Right. So me and him were working on music, and I told him, I said, look, I can't tell you. I give him ideas of kind of what I'm looking for, but I can't tell you exactly what it is until I hear it. I said, when I hear it, and it makes me feel that certain way, I'll know we have it. And we went through 4 or 5 or 6 different tries, and we kind of gave up. And then one night we kind of gave up and like, well, look, let's just let it rest right now. By the next morning, he's a guy who don't quit either. Once he gets something in his head, and especially if he can't get it, he's going to do it and mess with it till he gets it. The next morning, I woke up to the brand new intro for KAW when it comes out. And he did a fantastic job. The minute I turned it on, it made me feel like I wanted to feel. It's about capturing emotions. For me, from your music to everything, it's about, I work off of emotions. That's when wrestling is at its best, when you're working off of emotions of people.
Very true. I think so too. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on my podcast, but not for only that. I'm a big firm believer in people getting their flowers, because I think a lot of people will get flowers after they're gone and they can't enjoy them or smell them. And one of the reasons why I did this is to give appreciation to other fellow podcasters, because I know without us, wrestling would be a little different. And I know the hard work we put into this. A lot of people won't know that we work our butts off. I won't say as hard as a wrestler, but sometimes we can't come close to that. So I really want to thank you for not only that, but for also being kind. From the first time we met, anytime I need something, you're always there. I ask the little things, it's not a problem. And anytime I get the chance to show that respect back to you, I definitely will and do. So I want to tell you, thank you so very much.
Man, I appreciate that more than you'll ever know, man. Look, here's one thing I say about wrestling. It's really a thankless sport. No matter where you're at in it, whether you're a wrestler, whether you're a referee, whether you're a ring guy, wrestling's you do a lot, and very seldom do you get any flowers or any thank yous. and it feels good when people give you your flowers and tell you that. And I want to reiterate just where I started. You guys have amazed me with this WSN network, and you've amazed me with how far you've come so fast with your podcast. Look, I'm 2.5 years in now, and I'm kind of just now, over probably the last 6 or 8 months, really found my groove. And I feel like, man, you're way further along than I was when I was at where you are now in the podcasting, man. I feel like, and you've tucked to it like a duck on water, Professor. and I appreciate you so much for having me. It's a blast to me. We were talking a little bit before we went live. It's like a night off when I get to just talk and don't have to worry about comments or working anything else. So I appreciate you guys so much for everything. I appreciate you guys for putting my podcast in the podcast room at the WSN network. It means a lot to me. It gets me a lot of exposure. And look, that's what we do here. If all the promotions would work together like some of us podcasters do, wrestling might be a whole different, might have a whole different climate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we only could hope and dream. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate you, Professor Bear.
Anytime. Guys, girls, thank you so much for listening to joining me around the campfire. Just another amazing story. And the thing that I always say, us podcasters do so much to try to make sure y'all have a great experience, learn something new, and just have fun. And the one thing I always love to leave off on, please, please, please support your local indie wrestling. Guys, girls, I cannot tell you, it is a totally different feeling from going to the big promotions. I'm not saying that they're better. I'm not saying they're worse. I'm saying there is a different feel that if you are a true pro wrestling fan, you're going to love the indies. I promise you that. So, with that being said, I am Professor Bear. This has been a Bear's Thought, and we will see you around the campfire once again. Thank y'all and have a great, great evening.